Welcome to Mary Walter Radio, the podcast. James, I'm so glad you're here with me. How are you?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm good. I missed you.
I missed you too. It's
Because
been slow.
last week I was at Talkers, and the week before that you had a paying gig. So, of course, you weren't here, which is totally fine with me. I get that. I totally understand that. So I was at Talkers last week. We went out Thursday because it's out on Long Island. So, for the love of God, you gotta drive out there. Oh, Lord. So you want to break Guantanamo prisoners? Put them on the southern state, the belt of the southern state at rush hour. Actually, put them on there at any time of the day.
Cool.
We were there. We left here, the Jersey Shore, at like 1:30 because we wanted to get started early because last year we didn't go out till much later and we got it's a ton of traffic. So we said, we're going to go early. And my husband drove because he said if he didn't drive, I was going to get arrested in a road rage incident.
Yeah, I can see that.
100% true. And he was driving and I was still all worked up. I'm like, son of a bitch, in the passenger seat. So we take the Parkway to the Turnpike and you take that into New York. And we went over the Verrazano, which, we get 3/4 of the way down the Verrazano, right? Coming down. And there's a big sign that that there's an accident ahead, right? We never saw an accident. But on the Parkway and the Turnpike, flow is like 75, right?
Right.
People are moving, boom, boom, boom. And the state police, they don't care. As long as you're not the outlier. The trick is to never be the guy bobbing and weaving through traffic. That'll get you stopped.
Every time.
You don't want to be the guy doing 90 down the road when everybody else is doing 75. That will get you stopped, right?
Yeah.
So you got to figure like we're doing 75, maybe 80 on the Parkway and the Turnpike. Go and flow with everybody. No traffic. 3/4 of the way over the Verrazano, screeching halt. And it was bumper to bumper traffic through Brooklyn, all the way to Garden City, Long Island, all the way to Hofstra University. Oh my Lord in heaven above. It was horrible. And New York drivers are dangerous. They drive in the shoulder if they don't feel like waiting. They just drive in the shoulder, or they hop into they'll go through the exit, the rest stops, and they gun it through the rest stop to come out the other side. They're horrible.
My nightmare.
Horrible. They are nightmare drivers. They're dangerous. They're terrible. And there was this one, it had to be a kid in a white car, sports car. And he's like bobbing and weaving. And we kept catching up to him, right? It's just like, dude, you're wasting so much gas, hitting on the gas, hitting the brakes, hitting the gas, hitting the brakes. But so when we got there, so my car will tell you your average speed for the trip, right? What do you think our average speed was? Because it includes the Parkway and the Turnpike. What do you think the average speed was when we finally got to the Marriott by the Coliseum? We were the Marriott right next to the Nassau Coliseum was where we were.
37.
Close. 30.
Wow.
30 miles an hour. Oh my God.
Nothing good about that.
No. So we hung out in the bar Thursday night with other radio dorky people, but radio people are dorky people. So we were playing a game like everyone who came into the bar trying to figure out if they were with the conference or not.
Yeah.
It was.
It sounds like a radio game.
But it was pretty easy to tell, which is sad. And I get my water. And then the next day was, of course, the conference at Hofstra. And it was so much better attended than last year. So much nicer. It was great. There were more people. Radio people are dorky. Like we're definitely a little socially awkward. Like,
I'm wearing a Mandalorian t-shirt. So yeah.
Exactly. So I was hanging, Jimmy Fallon from Fox News, right? He was there, and I love Jimmy, and Jimmy and I get along so well, and I love him. So I looked at him, and I'm sitting. We're standing in the back, and I'm talking to him, and I go, "See this room?" He goes, "I go, I guarantee you, no more than 5 people went to the prom in this room." Probably wasn't that far off either.
Didn't go to my senior prom.
I didn't go to prom. Well, we only had one prom. It was a senior prom, and that was it. And I didn't go. My husband, of course, was the king of his prom. He was the prom king.
Oh, how adorable.
It's something that I love to every now bring up in awkward situations in front of people we don't know.
Oh, that's great.
He gets all mad at me. So, but it was fun. It was good. I'm trying to think of, Brian Kilmeade was there. Jimmy Fallon was there. Sid Rosenberg was supposed to be there and he didn't show up. I was all mad at him.
Hmm.
And then, so I'm sitting there outside with a man named Paul Rotella, who's head of the New Jersey Broadcasters Association. And he's had a lot of medical challenges, a lot. He's walking out, but he's got this really weird form of MS and he had a heart attack and everything. So, but he was there, which is great. So he's walking really slow and he's got his son's there with him because his son helps him with everything. And then he had this other guy with him who is a New Jersey police officer on the SWAT team, but like helps Paul. He's like, oh yeah, he's so glad he just made the SWAT team. And you could tell this kid because everybody's in a suit, like he's in a suit, looking very state policey, but he wasn't a statey. So I'm sitting out there. I went outside and I'm sitting on this, like, we're outside. They have like a courtyard. It's not a college campus. It's an auditorium on the college campus. And when you walk out, it's really pretty and everything. And they have these low, like, cement type things that you could sit on. Like it was like pavers and the cement top on it. And it's by a garden, we're sitting there. And I'm sitting there and all of a sudden something lands on me and I feel this searing pain on my right Achilles tendon because I have pants on because I'm still in my brace,
Right.
I swat at it. This huge bee comes flying out, rolls on the ground. And I'm like, and I'm trying super hard not to let my jersey out, right? Like I'm trying not to drop F-bombs. I'm trying not to, because there was this bee stung. I still have the mark on the back of my ankle a week later, 6 days later. I still have the mark. This huge, it hurt like you would not believe. So of course the police officer goes into police officer mode and he's like, are you allergic to bees? I'm like, I don't think so. He's like, you don't know? I'm like, I don't think so. But it was, long story short, it was very funny because he went to the Hofstra campus police officer and asked for an ice pack because an ice pack would have been wonderful. So he's got to call somebody to get the ice pack. Like, and then there's this woman who was running around trying to find an ice pack. And then somebody came up with Tylenol that told me to take so it doesn't swell. And somebody else gave me water. It was really very nice people. But now a crowd is forming, right? And I'm mortified. So I'm sitting there. I've got my bad leg because it got
Hey, it's the bee lady. That's the lady got stuck over here.
Exactly. So I've got the leg with my brace on, my shoe off, and I'm sitting there and I'm like, oh, and it hurt. I have not been stung by a bee in a really long time. So I was like, oh, and it was like, are you allergic? I said, I don't think I'm not allergic, but then again, I wasn't allergic to, certain antibiotic a while ago until I took it and then wound up like in the Metamerge thing because I was covered head to toe with this horrible rash. So who knows, right? But I'm like, yeah, I don't think so. So finally, a second campus police officer drives over with this little ice pack. It was like this big, this tiny little ice pack. He comes over, he goes, I already broke it for you. I'm like, oh, thank you so much. They give it to me. Then the first guy comes over and he's got like a clipboard and he has to take a campus police report because I got stung by a bee.
Woman, mid-30s, wearing pants, stung by bee.
He's asking me how old I am. I'm like, really? Does it matter? I didn't my address, my phone number, all this. I'm like, you have to do an incident report. He goes, yep, anytime we open a medical pack, the medical thing, we have to put a police report. I was like, this is going to be the most boring police report in all of Hofstra history. He said, you have no idea. He said, lawyers are involved in everything we do. I was like, okay. And he's like, you just check here and you have to sign here that you're refusing medical attention. And I looked at him, I go, if we're being fair here, no one offered any other medical attention other than the ice pack, because I'm really not sure what the further medical attention could possibly be. So I was like, well, in case you're allergic. I'm like, it's been half an hour. I'm pretty sure I'm not allergic. So.
Oh, well, litigious world we live in.
I know. So that was my day. So that's what I did last Thursday.
Good times.
Yeah. And then I've had a pretty, knock on wood, uneventful week. I was on a Chris Salcedo show on Monday, which I will be next Monday as well. I will be on the Chris Salcedo show Monday 5. Oh, he's moving to 4 because it has this big shakeup in news. So Chris Salcedo show, Newsmax TV, 4:45 Monday. Tomorrow night, I will be on with Sean Spicer from 6:30 to 7. I'm participating in the quiz again. I have my tiara all ready for another win. I'm all ready. Sure, I'm getting another win. So I have my tiara. That's tomorrow night, 6:30 to 7. Saturday, I will be on the Wendy Bell show at 4:30. 4 or 4:30. I got to check. I'll check and see what time her show's on. Let's say 4:30. I think it's on 4:30 for the whole half hour. And then Monday back on the Chris Salcedo show at 4:45. So if you've not done so, please like the video. If you have not subscribed, please subscribe to the channel. We would appreciate it if you do that. So any news, James? Anything to update us with?
I'll give you a quick funny story. Just to update for a long running thing we've been talking about on the show. I've had some medical things that went through like since February. I was waiting for test results and they bungled all that. The whole thing was waiting on me getting a blood test. I got a blood test at the beginning of May 3rd. My results never posted. So waited until Saturday when I'd called my doctor's office twice. And they said, yeah, we keep checking. They're not posting. We'll, of course, get back to you as soon as we find out any information. I decided on Saturday to say, well, there is a doctor's line. There's no, like, consumer line, but there is a doctor's line. What happens if I just hit 9? Yeah, I'm not actually a doctor, but it's been 6 weeks since my results, since I took my test and my results haven't posted. Do you know the line for a person like me to get my results? And the woman's like, what, 6 weeks? I'm not really supposed to do this, but I think I can help you out. What's your name? Do you remember the doctor ordered it? And the next thing you know, she sends me the raw results right to my email. So I called back my doctor and I'm like, hey, have you guys had any results in chance of getting my results for my test? Like, no, we've tried, haven't been able to. I'm like, well, did you happen to call the doctor line? Is there any chance you did that? You called the doctor line and the same line that I called and got the results from? They're like, I'm like, yeah, turns out you just didn't do your job. And
so are you going to live?
It turns out I'm going to live. Yep, everything's good. And yeah, good. And I did what normally would be like you to get myself in there and save a little money, but I wanted to be even more angry. And then when I got there and they really admitted they were wrong, it took all that anger away and I didn't know what to do. I was like, okay.
Fine.
We're good now. We're fine. Everything's good now. Thanks. We can go back to medical care again.
Okay. Well, I'm glad everything's good. Yeah. My phone is going crazy because my friend was golfing today at Trump's course in New Jersey, in Freedom. Okay. And he got to talk to Trump in the locker room. He's texting me as this goes. I'm like, he said, I walked by him and said, thanks, 45. He turned around and he walked up to me. We talked for about a minute. It was pretty cool.
Neat. Never not need to talk to any president, I guess. Must always need to just pass a president in a locker room.
Oh my gosh. Did you get a pick?
Yeah. Did you get a pick? Right.
Well, I don't know if you got a pick. So, all right. Speaking of Trump, let's talk about the January 6th thing. So, all
right.
So here's the thing. So from what I can tell, and I'm not watching all of this because it's such a sideshow and I refuse to give them ratings. This is, forgive me, if you disagree, that's fine. Feel free to tell me so. But I think what this January 6th thing is they're finding Trump guilty of saying that he didn't believe the results of the election, that he thought the election was tampered with. He felt that the election was not legit. Am I wrong? Right. Is that what this is about? And apparently you're not allowed to say that. So they're upset with him for saying that. Hello to Brenda. She's on Gettr. Hi, Brenda.
Hi, Brenda.
So that's basically what this is about. Trump dared to say that the election wasn't legit. That's what they're upset about. And this isn't a case. This isn't a legal case. This is just a show. And they're not looking for the truth because I have some things that I found about this. So what's interesting though is he says that the election, I think that Trump, after what happened to him, with them spying on him from the moment he walked down, when he came down that escalator, listening on his phone calls, we know they were doing that. We know that they were spying on him illegally. We know that they altered, requests to get the warrants on Carter Page, all the stuff that was going on. Trump knew from every single day that he was in office, They were undermining him and they were doing things illegally in order to stop him because they didn't want him stopped. So it's not that far of a stretch to think that maybe they did something to the election, especially when we saw workers in Detroit putting up paper on the windows so you couldn't see what they were doing. Republican poll watchers were thrown out of the Philadelphia polls, for 4 hours at a clip. There were a lot of questions. And to this day, I have those questions. And I think that we need to have an actual real investigation, not this dog and pony show that the Democrats are putting on, bread and circus for the masses. I would like those questions answered. I think we need to find that out. I think we all want to know if our vote counted. But you're not allowed to say that. If you say that I have questions about the 2020 election or this happened or that happened, you get silenced and thrown off of social media. You're done. You must be silenced because you're daring to question the party in charge. You're daring to question the establishment. And that's like Cuba stuff. That's North Korea stuff right there in my book. In my opinion, that's what's happening here. And they did the same thing with Russian collusion. Remember, we spent over $40 million investigating Russian collusion when they knew it was a hoax. They knew it wasn't real, but they just wanted to put Trump on trial because he's the political opposition. Now we're spending how many millions of taxpayer dollars on this. And I am so convinced that down the road, we're going to find out that election was fixed. The way it's the same thing with Hunter Biden's laptop. So first was the Russian hoax. Hunter Biden's laptop. If you questioned it, you were suspended on social media till after the election. It was Russian disinformation, and the media ran with it. Just like the good state-run media and any good dictatorship does. And they interfered with the election and they got Joe Biden elected. Now, was there a problem with the 2020 election? I think it's something we need to look at. I watched 2,000 Mules. I thought it raised a lot of great questions. But listen to this. Just the News, which is John Solomon's site. It's a really good site. He's been looking a lot into the election and into. I'm
typing that on my phone.
I'm sorry.
I'm typing that on my phone. Actually, I never heard that one.
Oh, yeah, justthenews.com, and also into January 6th. And I just saw a video today of January 6th of a guy who had a Make America Great Again hat on, and he's screaming at the Capitol Police. He's on the Capitol grounds. He's screaming at the Capitol Police going, do something. Why don't you do something? This is our Capitol. This is our Capitol building. You're letting them destroy. Why aren't you doing anything? What is happening? And he's screaming at this group of Capitol Police officers. And they're just standing there, and they're letting it all happen. And they're in full head-to-toe riot gear. Why? We need those questions answered, but they're not looking at that in this dog and pony show at all. And so John Solomon's doing some great reporting. So this is from his site. They interviewed the Yuma County, Arizona Sheriff's, the recorder at the Yuma County Sheriff's Office. Her name is Robin Stallworth Poquette. And here's what she told, this is Epic Times. I apologize. This is Epic Times. She says, our primary is August 2nd. We have received registration forms that are fraudulently completed. She provides oversight into the county's registration and oversight over early voting. She said, it's a prevalent problem in Yuma County, and it's very unfortunate. Her allegations come in addition to other witness reports and allegations of voting fraud that are the subject of 16 open investigations at the sheriff's office. That's just in Yuma County alone. 16. The observed, quote, pattern of fraudulent voter registration forms, according to a May 11th statement made by the sheriff's office, includes alleged impersonation fraud, false registrations, duplicate voting, and fraudulent use of absentee ballots. Now, the recorder could not provide any names because the investigation is ongoing. She confirmed to the Epic Times that many of the cases pertain to nonprofits who are operating on a national scale, which she believes are actually political advocacy groups. That was in 2,000 Mules, that these people that they followed their cell phones kept making these trips to these NGOs, these non-government organizations, and then they would make the rounds to all the drop boxes. And these are people who are supposed to help, these NGOs help the disabled and the poor and the unable to vote. We help them. We're a good organization. We're helping them vote. They're the ones who go to the nursing homes, and then help them fill out the ballot. Those people. Catherine Engelbrecht, who is the president of True the Vote, which was the organization that did all of that work in 2000 Mules. We are extremely encouraged that the Yuma County Sheriff's Office and Recorder's Office are now working together to investigate individuals involved in the subversion of elections. We spent concentrated time in Yuma County and provided significant information to both state and federal authorities. What has been happening in Yuma County is happening across the country. The targeting of vulnerable communities and voter abuse must be stopped. Yeah, Ron's right. Dershowitz has been going crazy on how unbalanced this is. He's so sure.
By the way,
January 6th.
Real quick, I hear you sounding really scratchy. Is that me or you?
Oh, I don't know. You sound fine to me.
All
right, hold on. Let me remove myself. Hold on.
Well, that sounds neat. Well, hi, everybody.
Is that any better? I tested my microphone before I came on.
No, I think it might be me, so I'll remove me and come back in.
Okay. All right. She goes on to say, it is very, Coquette, the recorder, says, it's very difficult to identify who is submitting these fraudulent forms, but I'm aware of activities of third-party groups, and I shared that information with the Sheriff's Office. Oh, my IT department has arrived. Yes.
Sounds like you switched over to that.
Oh, I switched over to that microphone. Hang on one second. It looks like I switched over to a different microphone. Let me go to here. Let me go to here. Hold on. Yep, I did. It's me. No, I'm gonna, yep, the one it's supposed to be isn't available. So I don't know what happened. It's not available. My IT department is here on it, but what I'm supposed to be on is not available, and I don't know why. How do we fix it? It's
Just you're better now.
I'm better now?
You're a little tinny, but
little tinny. Okay.
Sounds like you're in a big room.
I am in a big room. Headphone. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know how to fix it because I only had to do it from the beginning. Try that. That's the right one.
Yeah.
And this is the right one too. Hold on, technical difficulties every time. Headphones is the wrong. Click on that. It's not available.
All right, so just say goodbye to James for a second.
All right, I'm saying goodbye. No, James is not there. Hold on. James, are you here? Add James to the stream, please. Add James to the stream. Okay, James.
Hi.
I'm going to say goodbye and come right back while we fix
Got it.
Sorry, I apologize.
No I'll continue on. Go ahead.
Sorry.
Hello. So we're certain you're talking about January 6th. And here's the dilemma. I know where she was headed, talking about obviously Trump and the witch hunt idea. And I do get that sort of sense that it does seem very one-sided because it's all Democrats, and it very much is a witch hunt, which should be a much more focused on I would love to have seen a panel represented by Democrats and Republicans where we all could have looked at evidence together and looked at what happened in its entirety. I obviously have said many times, I as a person Trump wasn't my favorite president on any level. Things that I thought he did well. We can always talk about the things I enjoyed and the things I don't like. Mary and I have certainly debated and discussed on our own or in many live settings what I didn't like, and that's fine too. But the 6 trial just really does seem to be a hey, let's raw team some of our way through this. Even if I think Trump did some things there not so well and could have done better, I certainly don't think he was willingly trying to take over the country. He maybe have handled some things better. And I'm sure Mary will even debate me on that maybe she thinks probably he handled things perfectly. And, whatever, that we can debate that too. And that's fine. But trying to prove that he somehow was part of a giant willing conspiracy to take over and run the country. Look, they said that George Bush was going to do that he was going to be king. And then they tried to say Obama was going to do that and be king. And that's usually what people in the far parts of every part of our party say every time around an election is that, the guy in power is there to stay in power, and it's a big fear-mongering thing. And my question for Mary when she gets back is about the stealing of the election. How do you explain? And by the way, I'm not saying because I believe them or what happened. My question would be, how do you explain a guy, let's say Bill Barr, or all of those judges that just threw it out? And is that because they felt that there wasn't enough fraud that it changed the election? Maybe because there's always been a lot of fraud in our elections, and now we're just hyper aware of it this time around because we're so far into the weeds of social media, and social media being such a big part of our platform, and because it was COVID, and because there was so much mail-in this time that maybe there was a more elevated fraud than before. But I don't know. That's a big question. And this is why I think Mary and I both agree that this is where adults in the room on both sides should want to know the right answer, right? Real truth seekers. You should want to know what really happened. And that's what we both clearly agree on. You'd want to see what really happened here. Maybe we can tighten up our elections in the future. And I think politicians on both sides don't really want to tighten up elections. Obviously, it would be the Democrats who got away with this, but I would never pretend to say that both sides don't benefit from some form of election fraud from time to time. That's what politicians do. They get away with what they can get away with, right? There's always been gerrymandering in all kind of forms in different cities and towns and things. I mean, that's what politicians do. They get away with stuff, which is how we have what we're in now, right? So.
Okay, I think I'm back.
I love that you're back. Welcome.
Does it sound better?
You do. You sound a lot better. Yeah.
Okay, great. Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Now, you know what? Over here on Gettr, couldn't get it to work on YouTube. Couldn't get it. You just have to go to, if you ever had trouble getting the podcast to stream on YouTube, just go to YouTube and look for Mary Walter Radio. If the link doesn't work that I post, go to Mary Walter Radio. It should work. So yep. I couldn't hear everything you were saying, but
it's okay.
I'm sure you did a fine job.
I think I was pretty open and simple, which is, I don't, like I said, I've resaid it a million times. I'm not the biggest Trump fan on any planet.
Right.
But I certainly don't think he was part of an active plot to become the king of America. That seems pretty ludicrous. He probably could have done some things better. Maybe, maybe not. I'm sure we could debate that all we want, but that's not the point. I mean, do we really think that he's part of this giant secret plot behind the scenes with what, a bunch of hillbillies and a bunch of organized people? I mean, I don't know. Occam's razor just says that that's ridiculous. It sounds more like he said some things that got a bunch of hillbillies riled up, and they ran around some things. And I'm sure there's some loose ends all around that day that just didn't get tied up well. And we probably should be investigating those about how people bungled and dropped balls everywhere. That makes a lot more sense.
And there's, I'm sorry.
I'm not saying conspiracies don't happen, but I feel like witch hunting conspiracies is a lot more of a look over here at what we're trying to uncover while they're not doing their jobs or doing the jobs that we don't want them to do.
Right.
Passing bills we don't want them to pass, or not passing or not getting things done that we need them to get done.
It's like, don't look at the inflation because we're fine. It's the best economy ever.
Right.
So they're looking at this in Arizona. So that's just one thing, right? So this idea that, I guess we should jail everybody in Arizona who's looking at this because the election was perfect. It was fine. It was totally above board, right? We shouldn't look at that. A list of Democrats who have done exactly what they're saying Trump did. Trump refused the election. He refused the results of the election. He refused to accept it. That somehow is a crime. They're trying to paint that as a crime. Yet the man who is leading the January 6th committee, who is Congressman Benny Thompson, who is a Democrat, voted against the certification of the 2004 presidential election and refused to attend Trump's inauguration.
Right.
Was he saying so was he saying the 2016 election wasn't valid? You have Jamie Raskin. That's another one. As a leading figure on the committee. He led the impeachment, remember. He voted against the certification of the 2016 presidential election. Imagine that.
Yeah. I mentioned a little while you were gone about politicians being pretty hypocritical, and you can answer this after because you might want to read this, but just while you're away, I did ask a question, which is, what do you think is happening when you have a guy like, let's say, Bill Barr or all the judges that threw out a bunch of the cases, right? Do you think it's that it really was not enough or something else?
Yeah, I don't know.
I
Probably was.
I think that's, but I think by a legitimate question, like maybe that is almost like the kind of thing you should be investigating, right? I mean,
Right. Oh, I agree. Survivor 999 here on Gettr says President Trump is innocent. He's only trying to straighten out the election process. And I agree with that. With you, James, I don't think there was a conspiracy here on Trump's part at all. Although you would never know that if you watched Morning Joe, or as Greg Gutfeld calls them, Morning Blow. Kamala Harris, when she was senator, she agreed and she claimed that Trump was an illegitimate president several times. So is she going to go on trial? Hillary Clinton still claims the 2016 election was stolen from her. She tweeted out, "You can run the best campaign, you can even become the nominee, and you can have the election stolen from you." Hillary Clinton claiming that an election was stolen. According to the Democrats, that's sedition, that's treason, right?
What would be the case for her election being stolen? I don't remember was there a voter
Russians, the
fraud?
Russian collusion. The Russians put Donald Trump in office. That lie was told so many times, people believe it. Right? It was the Russians.
Yeah, but how? I can't even. I was just gonna say.
Remember, it was the Russians who hacked the DNC computer, and the Russians messed with the election and got Trump. They changed the votes. Don't you remember the allegation that Russians hacked our computers and changed the votes? Don't you remember that?
I guess I do now, but yeah.
Stacey Abrams, who lost to the current governor, Brian Kemp, in Georgia and is running again, she never conceded the 2018 race. So there's a bunch of Democrats who have done exactly what they're accusing Donald Trump of doing. Now, couple of things that have come out. First of all, they got caught spreading another lie, and then this idea of they keep calling this the big lie. The big lie. It's so Soviet because they've got Trump on trial without him being there, and it's a kangaroo court. They weren't allowed for the first time in history. The party and the minority wasn't allowed to appoint anyone to the committee. Nancy Pelosi said no, right? So they can't, and they refuse to share any kind of evidence. They refuse to release any of the videos to the party and the minority who want to see this stuff. They refuse to share any of it. So you're not allowed to see the evidence. You're only allowed to see the evidence we want you to see. You can't have representatives on the committee. It's a total kangaroo court. Again, this is very Soviet. This is now defend yourself. One of those type things. And this piece talks about, first we had the 51 security experts who wrongly claimed that Hunter Biden's laptop was Russian disinformation. So the deep state there, all kind of the elite, the establishment coming together to lie. We had the lie about Russian collusion. We had the lie about the Ukraine quid pro quo phone call, which was none of those things. And the person, whoever was on that call who leaked it to Alexander Vindman, there was never any kind of investigation to find out who broke the law there. Because, listening to on a presidential call and then spewing it to the media, even though it's confidential, totally cool if it's a Republican president. We don't even bother looking. And who doesn't bother looking? Mitch McConnell, Kevin McCarthy. Those people don't bother looking either. Just say it. They need to go to. Remember, and there was also the rumor that the Moscow had put a bounty on U.S. troops' heads, remember, and it was Trump's fault? That never happened either. We know that was a lie as well. So now the January 6th panel, and if you watch Morning Joe, I watched it this morning, and Mika was there telling the story, and she's like, "Oh, I cannot believe, can you believe it?" She's so outraged and just can't believe that this is happening in America, and people voted for this man, and the MAGA Trump, what do they call him? The MAGA Americans or whatever, what is it? The MAGA King. You're following the MAGA King, Bride. So there was a tour of the Capitol January 5th, right? And it was led by Representative Loudermilk on January 5th. Okay. Barry Loudermilk. And they show a video of this morning on Morning Joe. And some of those people there, they stormed the Capitol the next day. Look at them. They're taking pictures. This was a reconnaissance mission, is what Mika's telling me on Morning Joe this morning. This was a reconnaissance mission, and Loudermilk was in on it. The Republicans were in on it. This is all part of the plan. They planned this out. This is all part of the coup. And they ran with this. Now, it turns out, though, that that is a lie. And we knew this was a lie Monday, but Thursday, MSNBC is still telling this to their audience. And honestly, if I was Loudermilk, I would sue the pants off of me.
So it's back. So how do we know it's a lie? Like, what's the
I'll
truth?
tell you.
What happened?
Well, let me tell you. Thank you for
Lay
asking.
it on me.
The man who cleaned this up is the new Capitol Police Chief, J. Thomas Manger, who got his job from Nancy Pelosi, but he handed the Republicans a vindication. He wrote in a letter to Congress on Monday, which this is John Solomon's organization, Just the News obtained the letter, that an exhaustive review of security footage found no evidence that Republican Congressman Barry Loudermilk of Georgia did anything other than give constituents a tour of some congressional office buildings. The chief said the congressman didn't even enter the U.S. Capitol with the group. He wrote this letter to Rodney Davis, the ranking Republican on the House Administration Committee, saying, there is no evidence that Representative Loudermilk entered the U.S. Capitol with this group on January 5th of 2021. We train our officers on being alert for people conducting surveillance or reconnaissance, and we do not consider any of the activities we observed as suspicious.
See,
Nancy Pelosi's guy.
I get real annoyed at that kind of like just shoddy journalism.
Yep.
Like, this is what's ruining the country. And it's like how you mentioned, like what Mitch McConnell did. Like anytime you're just politicizing something so dangerous as this. Look, again, you can not like Donald Trump. You can complain about his policies. We can debate what he did right and what he did wrong. But the minute you start trying to paint these wild conspiracies. Look, and I said when you were gone, this started back, I remember, with George Bush. Remember when George Bush was going to take over the country and be the king? And then Obama was going to take over the country and turn it into a Muslim state and be the king. And now it's Trump is going to turn over the country. And in fairness, they're saying it about Biden. That kind of stuff's not going to happen. Biden is going to bungle the country and run us into the ground. That can happen because he's a moron. And he's slowly degrading before our brain. But he's not a communist operative working to create a Soviet state within our country. That's insane.
No,
and Trump was never going to be a Nazi, whatever, and take over the country. That's not going to happen. Those kind of wild conspiracies are crazy pants.
But what has changed? But what has changed is the spying on a president.
Oh, that's bad. Yeah.
The setting up,
sure.
The lies, the setting up, the spending of millions and millions and tens of millions of taxpayer dollars on impeachment over something that they knew was a lie at the time. This what's happening now. The trying to make people look what Democrats did on state levels. They went after Republicans who were running, who they thought would be hard to beat, and went after them and tried to charge them with all this stuff, saying that they were illegitimate to run, to try to get them thrown off the ballot. And they would take it to Democrat sympathetic judges to try to get legitimate Republicans thrown off the ballot so that they could win. And it's happening. And that's where it's ramped up this time. This is different this time.
No, I mean, no argument about, government's trying to take control. I mean, I'm not saying that, but you know what I mean when I say like the farthest of the extreme is not what's happening, right? You get what I'm saying. Like the conspiracy angle is not what's happening. He's not literally going to turn us into Soviet Russia. He might be taking more controls away, and I'm sure the more we let him, and I think the farther we go down the road in this country at this point, we're kind of getting to a crazy place here, right? I mean, it's getting a little nuts. I agree with you. But you see my point, why we're in trouble, though, right? We're letting the media build these things that are just like what we're talking about with what's going on here. It's bad. It's not good.
So now this all started because Benny Thompson and Liz Cheney sent a letter that was released to the media in May that demanded Loudermilk volunteer testimony and explained why he was giving a tour of the Capitol the day before the riots, suggesting it could be in part an effort to help case the Capitol building before the protest the next day. Now, they cited an earlier letter from a Democrat, Mickey Sherrill, that alleged that some GOP lawmakers gave tours on January 5th that involved, quote, suspicious behavior and access, and appeared to give defendants who stormed the Capitol the next day an unusually detailed knowledge of the layout of the Capitol complex. So the Democrats start a lie, and then they take it to the top. The top releases a letter to the media, releases a letter. That letter becomes public. The media runs with it, and Loudermilk is now smeared. And it took a Republican who wrote to the Capitol Police and said, could you please review the footage because no one will let us see it? Can you please review the footage from the day before? Why is the footage the day before being held secret? You know, I don't understand that. We can't. Will you please review it and let us, you know, what happened? Is he being, and thank goodness this guy came out and said, no, nothing. We didn't see anything. 4 days later, Mika is still on MSNBC pushing the lie. But yet Trump and the Republicans are the ones at the home of the big lie.
Where else are Americans going to go? Here's what your hope is, right? Maybe that the new president of CNN, who claims that they're not going to, you know, be a wing of the left, is going to come out and go, yeah, that was a lie too. Like, you have some hope, but
this is MSNBC, and they're usually better than CNN. But CNN has been stumbling, to your point, has been stumbling into journalism.
Right. Well, that's the new president claims that they're going to go back to being middle of the road journalism and not a left wing of the. But my point is, that's your only hope. But I mean, Americans have boxed themselves into this idea that I have left journalism and I have right journalism and not journalism. I mean, so to your point, they're never going to accept that this guy did that. It won't matter because they won't see it anywhere. It's not going to show up on MSNBC. Where are they going to learn this truth? Right? We have 150 subscribers.
Right. No, you're right.
And it's so hard to get the truth out.
Right. And Loudermilk now says that because of this, after the subpoena, which he still has not received a copy of the letter. He said, he told Just the News that he found out about the subpoena through the news. He still has not received a copy of it. And he said, I knew they weren't out for the truth. They're trying to push a narrative, and I believe the truth should be known. So we pushed back and said, let's get the truth out there. After the subpoena went out, his family and staff members started receiving significant death threats. And he said, I lay the blame to this at the feet of the January 6th committee for going to the press about their false allegations instead of talking to me individually and privately, because this isn't about getting to the truth. As I said, you know, why were the Capitol police officers just standing there in that video? Why were Capitol police officers holding the doors open? Who opened the Columbus doors from inside? Those doors can only be opened from inside. Somebody opened them. How did the protesters get through the Columbus doors? They can only be opened from the inside. If we could see the video, we would know who did it, but we're not allowed to see the video. And when they're holding something from you, that's when you have to question. This is also on justthenews.com. The Capitol Police received alerts from both the U.S. Homeland Security and the District of Columbia authorities about potential violence at the Capitol more than 2 weeks before the warning, before January 6th. So they knew 2 weeks ahead. They told that there was online chatter that was flagged about waging a bloody war, concealing guns, burning down the Supreme Court, turning to memos that were obtained by Just the News. Right, Capitol Police intelligence expert John Nugent Jr. wrote, right-wing extremists are talking about tunnels below the Capitol complex and the allegiance of USCP officers in an email sent December 21st to a distribution list of the department's Intelligence and Interagency Coordination Division. He forwarded information to the District of Columbia's intelligence analyst that stated a social post had garnered quite a bit of interest online about January 6th because it included a map of the Capitol grounds. The post was showing the tunnel systems underneath the campus, and the thread has several mentions of digging, probing security, carrying tools to the Capitol. 2 days later, so that would be December 23rd, Capitol Police official Matthew Herding sent a series of attachments in an email summarizing recent domestic terrorism threats. His email warned that militia members discuss attending a January pro-Trump rally, and that one of the militias, the Oath Keepers, was asking Trump not to concede, warns of a bloody war if he doesn't invoke the Insurrection Act, and sees all databases of the CIA, FBI, NSA, DNI. The same day as the DC government warning, the Department of Homeland Security sent the Capitol Police an extensive dossier about online and social media chatter suggesting the event could be violent. Capitol Police were given access to a non-public blog where maps of the Capitol and tunnel systems were shared. And January 6th attendees made several comments that promote confronting members of Congress and carrying firearms. So they knew about this 2 weeks in advance, and nothing was done. We know that the Capitol Police requested several times, days before January 6th, to call up the National Guard ahead of time. They were denied. We, to this day, don't know who denied them. You know who's in charge of the Capitol Police? Speaker of the House.
Who's
Speaker
that?
of the
Wait,
House.
what's her name?
Nancy Pelosi is in charge of the Capitol Police, but yet they were denied. Why were they denied? We know that Chuck Schumer was sent an email 2 days before warning him about this, and he did nothing with it. He didn't distribute it to anyone. Why?
Almost like they wanted a riot to happen.
It does seem that way, doesn't it? Jim Banks is one of the Republican lawmakers who has investigated the security failures that preceded January 6th, and he said the new memos make clear Capitol Police had extensive reason to suspect widespread violence would occur that day and had more than 2 weeks to prepare for it. He said he added, it is incumbent to learn what, if anything, Democratic leaders who controlled security for the Capitol, including Pelosi and Schumer, were told from those intelligence, because he's a Senate Democrat leader, intelligence assessments before a decision was made on January 4th to turn down the Trump administration's offer of National Guard troops. Trump administration offered them, wanted them.
You know, it's a much easier conspiracy theory to just bungle and turn down a few requests and let some dum-dums do their job than it is to, you know, imagine a big, wide thing that involves lots of secrets and record keeping. It's much easier to just go, no, whoops, whoop, leave a door open.
A senior Capitol Police official who discussed January 6th told Just the News he did not get briefed on the December intelligence and that it was shockingly clear the department and congressional leaders had more than 2 weeks to prepare for the very real potential of violence, yet did not. The official said, speaking on condition of anonymity, this is the sort of stuff operations and patrol and the civil disturbance units should have been read into and been preparing for. While it doesn't have the specific names of suspects, it paints a clear threat assessment that the very violence that occurred on January 6th was being discussed weeks earlier, right down to the tunnels. The failure to get this into frontline hands is a failure of leadership. A weekly intelligence report the department did prepare on December 23rd pointedly excluded much of what was transmitted to Capitol Police from DHS and DC government. So they excluded it in a weekly intelligence report. It mentioned some protesters plan to come armed, but that January 6th was likely to be, quote, similar to the previous Million MAGA March protests in November and December that, unquote, that were mostly uneventful. The December intelligence reports also included many references to plans to surround the Capitol as a means of stopping certification, a warning that apparently did not get to the police, permitting officials who approved multiple protest permits that essentially created a ring around the Capitol on January 6th that became impossible for Capitol Police to contain. Overwhelming. Yep, there you go. So they knew ahead of time. They knew 2 weeks. We knew they knew ahead of time, but not 2 weeks ahead of time. We now know that Chuck Schumer knew 2 days before, but he probably knew before that. Nancy Pelosi knew.
They didn't believe it. They were like, that could never happen.
Yeah. Or they said, wouldn't it be great if Donald Trump supporters did this and we could hang this around his neck forever? They're trying to find a way to arrest him. But this is why they can't have a real investigation, because stuff like this comes out. They can't have that. So let let me ask you, we're running a little bit over, but that's
Yeah,
okay.
that sounds like a way more plausible conspiracy of bungling and mismanagement.
Yeah.
Sounds like a
It's
way easier conspiracy to digest, doesn't it?
but you know what stinks is the guy who was the Capitol Police officer at the time, man, he fell on the sword, remember? Nancy Pelosi blamed him. He had to resign. He was the one who was hung out to dry, sunned. He was the one who was hung out to dry, but he's the one who asked for the National Guard the day of the riot. He was turned down initially. How it took them something like 5 hours to get the National Guard out. How come? How come?
I guess he was told, like, you could resign or we'll find a way to put you in the Jeffrey Epstein cell. I don't know.
Yeah, exactly. But he has nothing to do with the Clintons, so probably not. Um, so lastly, I just have a question for you, given in light of all of this.
All right.
Do you think Trump's power or influence in the Republican Party is waning? Do you think it's becoming less?
It depends what you mean. Do you mean in the party amongst the people out in the world, or in the party within the politicians and in this
In
inside the
both.
party?
In both, and I'll tell you why.
Okay.
There's a guy named Ryan Kelly. He is running for to be the governor of Michigan. He was arrested by the FBI last Thursday, a week ago today, in connection with January 6th. And he was accused of being on the grounds of the Capitol during the riot, though the FBI says there's no evidence he was inside the building. Which, being on the grounds of the Capitol is not a crime. It's our
No.
house.
Yeah.
It's not a crime.
Yeah.
But he was
going
arrested.
going in through a window could be problematic. Going on the grounds, not an issue.
Or if they hold the door open for you and tell you can go in, there's some guy who got off because he luckily was videotaping the whole thing, and the Capitol Police are holding the doors for him.
That's correct. It's kind of a problematic thing, yeah.
Right?
Well, a riot to be going, hey, come on in.
But they are alleging that he climbed a scaffold outside the building and participated with a crowd that confronted Capitol Police officers. Yet he's not in jail, which is interesting because they jailed people they're still in jail now to this day, and they haven't had a trial yet.
This guy's not in, but
So
somehow.
it's interesting that they arrested him, but he's not in. But this is what they're doing to Republicans, right? Because they want to tar you. But here's the thing. Since his arrest, his popularity has gone up. He is now the front runner in the gubernatorial race in Michigan. Now, it's early, and he only has 17%. He's in the lead at 70%. You still have 45% of people in Michigan who say they're not sure who they're going to vote for yet. But the fact is that just a couple of weeks ago when they did the last, he had less than 6% support among likely Republican primary voters during the last poll. Now he's at 17% since he got arrested.
Well, I think you have a starting swell of exactly what happened to Trump the other way. You are beginning just because of inflation. I mean, I do think Trump has a fair bit of popularity going. So there is that. He has maintained some of his popularity. He definitely has lost some, right? I mean, because other Republicans have gained some popularity. DeSantis,
Right. DeSantis,
growing.
right.
The other Republican, who's the North Carolina? Is it the North Carolina? There's somebody else.
Tim Scott.
Is that who it is? I think I don't know. Doesn't matter. It's not my point. There's other Republicans gaining popularity in the world too, who are starting. You can see who maybe are Trump-esque in policy and maybe not as problematic in vocal and out in the world, with the things that, the people didn't like about Trump, but they're, Trumpish in policy. So that could maybe a good look forward for 2024, right? So I'm not saying that Trump is unpopular, but with other ones gaining popularity, they're taking some of that spotlight away, and the media, that happens.
Although
but as you say, look at the Trump people he's backed, and he's been very successful backing, during those primaries, a lot of those people he backed all won. But the other side of my thing is you're starting to get the groundswell because of inflation. Anything but a Democrat at this point is starting to look good, I think, because of inflation numbers too. So you have to, I think, account for that too.
True. But in the Republic, so they're going to vote for a Republican. But my question is, why is it that the Trump-backed Republicans did so well? Why is it that the ones that got Trump's endorsement did so much better than the ones who didn't? Look at, and you talk about people who are, vocal and out there. Marjorie Taylor Greene comes to mind as a female version of like an AOC who's just out there and in your face. She won. She got reelected, right?
Yeah.
So you've got Trump. He backed Russell Fry in South Carolina, and he defeated the incumbent in South Carolina in the primary. This guy held the seat. He defeated him. You have Elon Musk. Elon Musk now saying I'm voting Republican. He voted for Myra Flores in Texas, and he likes DeSantis for president. He says he likes DeSantis. You've got her, like I said, she flipped that seat that hasn't been hasn't been a Republican seat in like 100, I think they said 182 years. Now, granted, they're going to go for any Republican maybe at this point, but the point is she got the nomination.
Yeah. No, I get you.
Right?
Yep.
And she flipped the seat. You have Adam Laxalt in Nevada for the Senate candidate. He won in a landslide. He got the nomination. And who's the other one I have here? This guy Joe Lombardo. He's a sheriff in the governor's race in the Republican primary. It was classified with his win was classified as a blowout. He got 48% of the vote. The closest opponent was 19%. Wow. Again, endorsed by Trump. So yes, I agree that people are going to be voting for Republicans overall because of how horrible Joe Biden is and how hard, just in general, the Democrats, all this stuff that's going on. But the Trump endorsement still seems to have that Trump bump still seems to be there.
Yeah, I think.
Well, just very quickly. So I think among voters, he still has that sway to a certain extent. And the reason why is I think they like the fighters. I think Republicans are tired of, right. They're tired of the same old, same old. So you're going to get people like DeSantis who learned from Trump how to fight, right? You get people like Marjorie Taylor Greene, Lauren Boebert, Elise Stefanik, this Myra Flores. You get these people who know how to fight. And I will say it's more so women than men, the female candidates who are willing to just go out there and just fight more so than the establishment Republicans. Now, so I think you're going to see more Trump Republicans in Congress as time goes on. And I think that corners the Lindsey Grahams, the Mitch McConnells, the Kevin McCarthy's, the old guard. It's the same thing that's happening on the left, where you have the squad, you have all those people coming in and they're kind of pushing out the Nancy Pelosi's, the Chuck Schumers, and the old guard there. And I think you have it on the right as well.
So I don't know if all of this is good, because in every one of these cases, that's not always the best candidate. Right? I mean,
agree.
So, but I do like that sense on some level of the non-establishment. You and I both love the getting rid of some of these, these kind of Mitch McConnell, Chuck Schumer people. They gotta go. I mean, they really do gotta go. They have to go. There's no other words. They gotta go. So,
No, but when you say
these.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No, I was going to say, but I mean, in both these cases, sometimes when you're getting these people, you are getting these pretty like, what words can I use here? Like, like, hi, I'm Country Joe out here. I'm the Trump Country Joe guy, and I'm going to fight for you. And
But wait, look at New Jersey. Look at South Jersey down by where you are. That truck driver, Ed, what's his name, who won in New Jersey. Remember, he spent less than $1,000 on his campaign, right? And he's the guy you're describing. And he's doing great. And people voted for him because he has a job, because he knows what it's like to pay bills, which is the same reason people love Trump. Trump knows what it's like to have to run a business.
And it can definitely work great. I'm not saying it can't. I'm just saying it's right. We're throwing some dice here. We're shaking them up. I'm just saying we got to be careful. We can't just assume because the guy's that's always going to look. I'm with you. Look, let's take the chance to get the established candidate out. But you could also end up with an AOIC or some kind of wacko sheriff who's like right on the edge of being far right wacko too. Like I don't want those people either, right? I don't want AOIC or like super far edge far right wacko. just because he's a fighter. I kind of want common sense, you know,
Yeah, I forget which leather,
like the guy you're talking about was common
right.
sense, right?
I can't remember his name, Ed, whatever.
Me either.
But
Smart,
common sense is great, but they also have to. Common sense is great, but they have to also have an ability to navigate in the social sphere. You know, that's not something everyone can do in a political sphere, rather.
Yeah, I can have a little bit of this. You know, I like that.
Yeah. But I think that that's what people, especially Republicans, are really looking for right now. And, you know, you see them. A lot has been said about how the Democrats are losing the Hispanic vote, obviously, because it's shocking how not every Hispanic came here illegally. It's weird how that happens, right? They're forgetting that there's a lot of people who come to this country legally and can vote now. Also, Hispanics are much more likely to be religious. They're much more religious than the average American now. They're very family oriented, and the left is running on abortion. Well, okay, that doesn't sell with the mainly Catholic Hispanics that come across the border. So
it's also why our founding fathers didn't want us to even have parties, right? I mean, trying to box Latinos into being just liberals is insane because they're Catholics or they're business owners or they're whatever. They're like humans like everybody else, just like our African American friends are humans like everybody else. How many more of them are becoming more conservative too? Why? Because they run businesses and they have, you know, conservative oriented ideals and don't fit into just a liberal box. I mean, turns out nobody does, right? And now that we're more connected, I think on social media, I think we're going to start seeing these breakdowns of ethnic things just being connected to one party or the other really break down as people become more podcast conscious and start watching and seeing more things. I think you're going to start seeing that traditional thing break down.
Well, it's also, and I've
it's
always
definitely
said this,
happening.
I've always said that that the left is very racist. You know, they just assume because what did Joe say? Joe Biden said it before the election.
Yeah.
If you don't vote for me, you ain't black.
Yeah. What now?
What? I'm sorry.
Yeah.
If Donald Trump said that, Mika Brzezinski's head would explode on live TV. But Joe said it, and they don't even discuss it, right?
Yeah. Right.
You know, his son is dropping the N-word all over the place. It's okay. We don't say anything about that.
Cool.
You know, no, don't worry about that. Yeah, get rid of incumbent politicians. That's right, Ron. 100%. Get rid of incumbent politicians now, right? You know, so the left has always been incredibly racist and misogynist too. They just assume that women, how many times have I seen on social media, how could a woman vote for Donald Trump? Okay, well, wasn't it Hillary Clinton who said women only vote for Donald Trump because their husbands make them? Like, what? So they're wildly misogynistic. They're wildly racist. You know, they're not huge on the Asians, the Democrats, because you know, they don't always vote. They don't have them, you know, voting in a box. But they've always had this grip on the African American vote. I don't understand why, but they do. They have this grip on the African American vote. And I think it's all starting to unravel, as you said. And I think a lot of the key to the unraveling, what kind of put it on rapid, was schools. Because believe it or not, their kids go to school too. And no parent, whether they have a D or an R after their name, likes to be told that you don't have a say over your kid's education. We're going to tell your kindergartner that they can be your little girl, she can be a boy. They don't like drag queen story hour in 3rd grade, regardless of their political party. So that's right. That's one of the reasons I think it's changing.
Best thing that can happen to the Republican Party is for Trump to stay a big media mogul and run his social media and do all whatever he wants to do in the background and keep plugging away and helping people out and get a guy like DeSantis in the office.
Yeah.
That's the best thing that can happen for that party because he is very powerful, obviously, as a you know, media person and party person in the background because he really angers the established Republicans too. And that's
I know.
Nice,
I love that.
Nice to have that stick. But
yeah,
let's be realistic. Him running for president again is, you know, another 3/5 of the way toward our civil war, right? I mean, it's just.
But it shouldn't be that way just because the left can't handle it.
Well, no, the right can't handle it either. Look, do you think the right are any better at sitting around going, yeah, and you, and you, and you, and you, and you? You think they're the better side? No. They're-
No,
they're
but they're
all-
not in
they're-
this. But they're not
all-
protesting. They're not protesting in front of people's houses. They're not trying to break down the doors of Supreme Court justices. They're not. You know,
really?
they're
The ones
when
that
they
ran
go out
into
there,
the
they pray with
Michigan
their
Capitol,
rosary
though?
beads in front of an abortion clinic.
You remember the ones that were trying to run through the Michigan Capitol and they weren't happy with how that little election thing went? Look, there's plenty of far right people that are just as angry and mean when they want to be. Trust me, it's all
Yeah.
boiling under the surface. I'm just saying we're at a horrible time. It's like it's not worth it. There's so many good Republicans that are Trump-like that could do the things that Republicans want them to
Right.
do without having the baggage, right?
Well, the baggage Trump has, the left hung on him.
No, the baggage Trump has is that he can't shut his mouth and he can't stop typing, and that's not good for America. And most people in big positions I wouldn't trust him now to run this Ukraine situation at all. I mean,
Really, I don't think
I
he
would be hiding under a desk every day of my
All right,
life.
well, that's insane.
hiding.
That's insane because we would not be in this Ukraine position right now. Remember, Putin invaded
That's a
under
maybe.
Bush, he invaded under Obama, and he invaded under Biden. He didn't invade under Trump.
Well,
So we would not be in this position right
or
now.
we'd not be in NATO and they'd own all of Europe.
We would be in. Why wouldn't we be in NATO?
Well, it depends if you believe Bolton. Bolton says the plan was to take a set and turn and take us out of NATO, in which case NATO would be fighting in Ukraine and we would not be. So, who
Yeah.
knows?
Well, we shouldn't be fighting in Ukraine anyway.
debated.
And as far as I know, we're not.
By the way, all debatable is my point,
Right.
but not my point. My point is the feel of the country would just be much
yeah, but
better if a Republican came in here and turned the country around in a way that America felt good and wouldn't feel like, oh God, we're back to we're at World War III again.
And
Just
I
DeSantis
argue
could be a good president.
I argue with you that the reason that the country felt so insane for 4 years was generated by the Democrats and the media ran with it. And it was one thing after the next. We had the impeachment and the Russian hoax and this and that. And everything was always, oh my God, the sky is falling. And the Democrats ran with it. And it was all lies.
Now,
And that's because of them. That was not because of Trump. Trump gave you, my 401k was doing great under Trump. I could fill my gas for less than under $2 when Trump was president. I didn't have bare shelves when Trump was president. Things were great. But if you take out that noise that the left created, that's exactly what they wanted. I know people who voted for Biden because they said, I just want it to be calm. I just want it to be exactly what you're talking about.
yeah.
So now you got that. You've got that. But look what else you have along
But
with
he
it.
had 4 years to stop that from happening.
But he
had
couldn't
4
stop
years to
it.
learn-
How was he supposed to stop it? He wasn't allowed to talk. How was
Stop
Trump
being
supposed
a
to stop?
baby. Stop being a child.
About what?
4 years. You can't honestly tell me that there's anything good about the president of the United States acting that way at all.
Acting how? Give me an example.
Every tweet and every time he comes out there and talks like a child. Can
He
you can
only
honestly look at-
had
I could pull
he-
thousands of my phone for 4 years.
he only had. I would like to know how you would behave if every time you were trying to do a job, before you even started, they started lying about you. They set you up. They
Nothing.
spied on you. They put out lies
Nothing.
against you every single day, and you couldn't go to the media because nobody would cover anything.
Nothing.
The only thing you had was Twitter to get your word out unfiltered because the media
Yeah.
would read it
You know how you
unfiltered.
You know how you get your word out unfiltered? You get people who write these things and write them in a way that adults write them
Okay.
and not write them like a child.
Okay. If
That's how
that's
you
your
do
problem is you don't, so bottom line is you didn't
Yeah.
like his tone and the way he wrote tweets.
Yeah. On the
Okay.
world stage
And I'll
as
tell
the
you what.
leader of the free world. Right. Yeah.
Okay. Okay, great. But now, because a lot of people didn't like his tone, you've got what we have now. So you know what?
Yeah.
I'll take that tone and I'll take what you describe as childish over North Korea not shooting rockets at Japan anymore, over Putin not invading, over $5-6 a gallon gas, over
It's
not being
terrible.
able to afford meat, over not being able to feed your child, and everything else that comes along with this. But at least he's nice.
Hey, I'm with you. in
Kind
not
of sounds
saying
like a dumb complaint.
Hey, I'm with you. It's terrible. First of all, it's not a dumb complaint, but I'm with you that it's terrible. My point is, now what do you think is better in 2024, right? Do you think that next thing is going to get better the second time around? or do we put a really good Republican in who can do the same kind of job?
I don't know
All things
which one.
being considered.
All things being considered, listen, I wish Trump didn't tweet as much as he did. I agree. However, it's
And I agree with you. He did the good things, right? I know the good things he did, so I'm not disagreeing with
is
that.
perfect. No president is perfect.
Agreed.
No human is perfect. That's his flaw. I'll take it. I'll take it 1,000 times over if he can seal the border. We've had 3 million people walk into that country into our country that we know of illegally in a year and a half of the Biden administration. 3 million. We can't sustain that. You can't walk on the street in New York. I'm going to New York next Wednesday. You can't walk on the street in New York at 2 o'clock in the afternoon without getting stabbed in broad daylight. Here in New Jersey now, the smash and grabs of jewelry stores and everything are starting. It's lawless. We've got people coming across the border. This country is in a death spiral. I will take a childish tweet over that.
I'm not saying we're in the good position. I'm not saying you're wrong. I'm just saying it's not going to get better. It's not.
Why? Why won't it get better if Trump goes into office?
The second time around will be even worse.
Why? In what way?
Well, you think the left will get better the second time?
So it's the left's fault, and I'm not going to let them ruin it. It's the left's fault. You can't hang that on Trump's neck.
I certainly can, because first of all, he will come in better, and they'll definitely be worse.
And you don't think they'll do that to DeSantis? You don't think they'll do that to him?
Well, look, we've all set that precedent, right? I mean, this thing we've all done, this thing we work in now, has already set the precedent of what we do to every time there's a precedent, right? I mean,
every time there's a Republican president.
No, we're doing it to Biden now. They did it to Trump. Before Trump, we did it to Obama. Before Obama, we did it.
No. But we're not lying. No. We're not lying about Joe Biden. We're not Mika Brzezinski today talking about something, putting video out there and saying that this happened and this man, was involved in a coup and everything else 4 days late after we know that that's not true.
No, that's not my point. I'm just saying we're at a point now where the adversarial and we're this divided. I don't know that by the time we get DeSantis in, we're going to have found a way to calm the temperature down in the country, so that we can work together. I don't know that DeSantis is that president. I would like to believe that the next president coming is the president that can calm the temperature down in the country and bring us back together.
The left won't allow that. The left will not allow that. They want total chaos surrounding a Republican president. It's got
to be the people. The people will get past the media. Either the people are going to have a war, or we're all going to have had enough and stop caring about the media and figure it out. And I think maybe the right president can do that.
The left will not allow it to happen. The left will not allow a successful Republican. I just want to get to some comments here by L. Hold on. Let me just get to some comments here by L. I'm sorry. I was watching I look like you were talking because we're like 10 seconds behind on the Gettr stream. And that's where she's commenting. So your mouth was moving. So I was like, hold on. Sorry. No. So L says, Democrats crashed the economy in 2008 to 2012. The media screamed that George W. was a lame duck. He complied. 3 days after Biden said, you ain't black, the media hyper-focused on George Floyd, #George Floyd, to redirect focus. Oh, please. Trump's baggage is a creation. It is a creation of the Democrat media's lies. Obama, Biden worked to create Ukraine. Biden gave Putin the Nord Stream 2 pipeline. Right? The children are those who say Trump didn't act the way they wanted. Talk about childish. And then she says, tell him, Mary, this schmuck wants us on our knees to the putrid, corrupt Democrat Party. I don't know if you're the schmuck in this, and if you are, I don't think so. Okay. You're a lovely person. We just disagree.
I can take the schmuck comment in this. That's okay.
Okay.
She means well. I get it. That's fine. That's why you and I can have healthy debates.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly. So, I appreciate all the comments. That's wonderful. Thank you, Elle.
We love
like it. That.
Thank you,
Elle. Go, girl. Oh, I didn't assume your gender. I'm sorry.
That's right. She could be they. That's right.
They. Prefer pronouns they. That's another thing parents don't want. All right. So I just have one. I just have some fun stories.
Men can look. I'm sorry. You do not follow along that men can now have periods and babies. I just think you're framing men all wrong, Mary.
You know what was weird about that whole men can have babies thing? I didn't see one side. Then they're still outside of Justice Kavanaugh's home, which is illegal. But why would we enforce the law? They're worried about women's rights. I did the unthinkable. I would get on Twitter and I get blocked all the time now because I go like, how can we not concerned about men who give birth? How come they're not concerned about their rights? And I get nothing and I get blocked.
Yeah, it's good times. Good times.
I love to do that. I love to do that. All right. So, okay, very quickly, two quick stories. I don't know if you heard this story about a woman in Missouri. So she won $5.2 million in a settlement with Geico. Did you hear about this?
No.
Okay. So she said she contracted the human papillomavirus, HPV, which is that you can get that injection now, or whatever, while having sex inside a vehicle insured by Geico. She alleged that because her partner failed to take proper precautions and infected her inside the insured car, that her infection should be covered by the policy.
Oh my God, we're blaming the government. We're giving the
The,
government.
the petition was filed in February of 21 and subsequently rejected by April of the same year. Of course, after a final settlement offer of $1 million was rejected by Geico, the dispute went. So she goes, "All right, I'll take $1 million," which is really $500,000 when you're done with taxes, if you're lucky. So it goes to arbitration. An arbitrator with the Jackson County Circuit Court found in favor of the woman and recommended a $5.2 million payout from Geico.
Oh my God.
Can you believe
This I really was ready to blame the politicians. What's wrong with our world until I heard this, and now I'm like, oh, never mind.
Well, it is the politicians. Judges are all lawyers. The lawyers are.
Oh yeah, you're right.
Right.
That's right. You're right. You're right.
The Missouri Court of Appeals deferred to the arbitrator and refused to overturn the previous findings. They said at the time of Geico's intervention, liability and damages had been determined by an arbitrator and confirmed by the trial court. Geico had no right to relitigate those issues. The court wrote in its decision that Geico may have been able to avoid the payout if they had defended the woman's sexual partner, who's the owner of the insured car. Instead, because they chose to deny coverage, their path of legal recourse was compromised. So,
wow.
There you go. And by the way, I don't know if you saw this very quickly. That guy in South Jersey is Edward Dorr. Ron gave us that. So Edward Dorr was that guy. Yes, thank you. All right, and one more. I got a Florida man story. I love Florida man stories. You ready?
Go.
12:34 a.m. on Tuesday. There's a man walking near the Warm Mineral Springs Motel in Northport, Florida. And he's on a pathway near the motel, and he, quote, noticed a dark figure. This is from the Sarasota County Sheriff's spokesman. He, quote, noticed a dark figure moving along the bushes. And he believed it was, quote, a dog with a long leash, which is why he wasn't hesitant to move out of the way. So he didn't move. That's when the dog bit his right leg, holding on, pulling on his muscle and tissue. He advised, or he said he attempted to get away at that point and felt the dog rip a chunk of his muscle/tissue off. That happened because it was a 7-foot alligator, not a dog.
Oh.
I hate to laugh, but okay. A deputy happened to be nearby on another call, was able to get to the man before he was taken to Sarasota Memorial Hospital in Venice. The sheriff's sergeant caught the alligator, and they held it for Florida Fish and Wildlife for a trapper. The 7-foot 1-inch alligator was removed from the property and is being transferred alive to Townsend Farms. The victim has been released from the hospital and is expected to make a full recovery. Okay, this is why I don't understand why everybody moves to Florida. Everybody moves to Florida because they're like, oh, the weather's great. You should move down here. I can't believe you stay in New Jersey. I would move for the taxes in a heartbeat. But I know enough that when you're near any kind of water in Florida, which is everywhere, there's alligators living in it. And they like run up and they snatch your dog. You've heard the stories over and over about people who are like walking a dog and all of a sudden the dog is gone and it's being eaten by an alligator that was in the water that popped up and grabbed the dog. So at night, when you're walking, I guess, near a swampy area or a little lake or a retention hole or whatever it happens to be in Florida, you have to just assume that it's an alligator that's going to try to drag you into the body of water and eat you. Because they're dinosaurs.
Yeah, totally.
And that's a reason not to live in Florida. And in Florida, the roaches, they call them palmetto bugs, but they're like this long and they fly. Thank you. No. Just saying.
Hey, are you weirdly? Were you hearing music?
No.
Huh. Well, either I'm going insane or my computers are going nuts.
Okay. All
I was-
right.
That was really weird. That's why I had that weird look on my face because there was just music playing on my head, playing on my headphones now.
Oh, wow. All right. Well, maybe it's just the voices in your head. Oh, yeah.
I don't know where that's coming from because I have nothing. Look, nothing's plugged in. It's phantom music.
So
Like, I
you
know
want
this thing. Like, you know, I work at a haunted building, right? Like,
it's true. It is a haunted building. I work there.
there's phantom.
Oh my
I'm
God.
not hooked.
All right.
That's the main computer. That's the. It's not. I'm not hooked up to that.
I can't, I don't know. Well, we're gonna say goodbye anyway because
Yeah, we can
we've
goodbye
run
now.
over. But it was a fun conversation. Thank you for
course.
letting me going back and forth with me because you know I love you.
And
If
I
you
love
have
you
not,
too, my friend.
please like the video. Please subscribe to the channel if you have not done so. If you are watching on Gettr, if you just go to YouTube and search for Mary Walter Radio, it will come up and there's all past episodes that you can watch. So, and don't forget tomorrow between 6:30 and 7 Eastern time, I will be on the Sean Spicer Show on Newsmax TV. On Saturday, I will be on the Wendy Bell Show on Newsmax TV from 4:30 to about 5:50. And then on Monday, I will be on Newsmax TV on the Chris Salcedo Show at 4:45 because next week everything changes on Newsmax and everything changes spots. The music will stop. See, that's when the music stops in your headphone. So
Yeah.
those are the next 3 TV appearances coming up for me. And next Wednesday, I will be in Manhattan to receive my 3rd Gracie Award. So thank you. I'll bring it. I'll have to have it with me here, my little statuette. So I am doing that next Wednesday at where are we going? Cipriani's in Manhattan. So I'm doing that next Wednesday. So
Awesome.
that's it. You got anything big coming up?
Nada.
Anybody can? No. All right. Didn't know
I
if you
play
wanted
with
to
an
plug
accordion
anything.
orchestra next week.
An accordion orchestra?
Yeah, that's the picture. If you look up on Facebook, if anybody looks me up under James Gettr Switch, you'll see a picture of me playing drums. You'll see my drums sitting there, and there's an accordion orchestra. Yep, all accordion. Even the bass is an accordion bass. Yep.
I love that because I have to tell you, being of German heritage, every time there's a family get together, my cousin James whips out the accordion. So
20 accordions, all playing various parts.
this is
of
so
the
cool. Where
orchestra.
is this? Wait, where is this?
I'll
I
be
want to
playing
go.
at
Where
a
is this?
nursing home in Cherry Hill.
At a nursing home in Cherry Hill.
I'll have video.
I want to go, honey. Wait, my IT department just appeared. What's going on? Oh, my IT department just left. So he's on call. So his phone went off. So, Elle said, no, we can't stop. You guys just got warmed up. and then Elle said, bring your bodyguards, James. Bring your bodyguards.
Oh, she can take me. Don't you worry. She definitely can take me. I mean, I need a bodyguard. Yeah.
Yeah, anybody could. Yeah, one of the people in the home can probably take James. He's not that fast. He is not fleet of foot. So we will be back here next Thursday, 7:15. All right, we will be here. So please join us. And like I said, please subscribe to the YouTube channel, Mary Walter Radio. All of the, I don't really have any articles. I'll put that one article from Just the News up on the webpage because we didn't really talk about anything other than that that's really like newsworthy that you may not have seen. So I'll put that one article, it'll be in the description. Okay. Cool. And we will see you again next week right here. And hold on, I have to get this ready. Okay. And thank you everyone for joining us. We really appreciate it. James, my work husband, I'll see you next week.
Later.
Bye.
See ya.